So we were reviewing primarily our 5 angles, right? So we were talking about how if we're up higher above the shoulder, we're receiving that in more of a Dumog type fashion where you're just raising an arm and either blocking or intercepting it, right? And the 1, it's the same thing.
Right.
Right? And our 3s and our 4s come from the outside.
Okay.
Right? That way. And then our last big strike angle is our 5, which is our thrust. And we were talking about footwork being the primary here.
Okay.
Typically, and very obviously, if you're getting shanked from up close, you're not going to see it. It's a moot point.
Right.
Right? But if someone's thrusting a knife at you or they're coming like this, and even if it's, it might appear to be a circular, but if they go like this, it's a thrust, right? If they're using a spear or if it's a sword and they're driving it in, the standard thrust motion of a 5, I don't really care if it's coming up a little bit, right? Or they're coming down a little bit. It's still coming in on your center line, and you've got to get offline. Right. That's the primary thing with a thrust. You cannot be standing in the middle of it. You're going to receive it. And there's no block to a thrust. It goes through your arm, through the shield. We've seen it all, right? So the whole point is footwork in combination with your hand, right? So we're receiving the line of attack, a 3 and a 4, with that primary arm.
Right.
You can also do that with the thrust, but you don't want to stand downwind of it.
Right.
So you've got to get your body offline. And that's the big thing with thrusts, is there has to be footwork, and there tends to have to be a pass. At least enough to let it go by. And then once it's off path, it's irrelevant.
Right.
That's kind of where your knife tapping comes in. So if I just give you the 5, and you go off, and now I turn and I start trying to attack, there it is right there. What's turned from a thrust to an angled slice, which would be a 3 or a 4, depending on which side I'm on.
Right.
I mean, realistically, you can number it, but it's the angle from the side it's on, and that's what's important.
Okay.
Right. In Filipino martial arts, you're going up to like 10. There's different numbers of different lines of attack because they slice it down with different types of numbers just to break it down and deal with it. But at the end of the day, you get tacked on an angle, you deal with the angle.
Right.
You see it, and you got to respond.
Yeah.
Right. So that 5 can turn into that 4 attack right now. And that's where your knife tapping is handy, because if you block and remove, you leave the line open for them to do that.
Right. And you had mentioned that straight thrust, I can turn that into a 4. Right? I can turn that 5 into a kind of a 4.
Basically what happens is the moment that thrust is passing your body, it becomes that 4.
Right.
Because it's on the side of your body and you're dealing with it the same way. You can't so much turn my attack into a different angle because my energy is this way on that, and that's a thrusting energy versus a slicing type of energy, right? But you can certainly deal with a number 5 or a thrust like you would a 3 or a 4 when you get the arm here and it's next to your body.
Yeah.
And you go to your 2-on-1 control or your wrist control or any of your controls once it passes the center line. Because I know that right away. Once I'm here, I'm cutting here.
Right.
Because I'm trained and I've spent time with the blade. An amateur might not get that. What they'll likely do is thrust, pull back and thrust again.
Right.
And they're just going to do this.
Right.
Right? It's that rage attack we talked about, the third type of pressure.
Right.
Where someone just comes relentless and it's over and over and it's a bit mindless. It's like the ice pick or the hammer attack. They just keep hitting. And they'll use the same angle. Someone attacks you with that ball-peen hammer.
Yeah.
Mafia hit.
Yeah.
And they're going to come and crack your skull. They're not going to hit your skull here and then hit your skull here and then hit your skull here and then do one on top.
Right.
Right? It's ridiculous.
Right.
It's rage out the same thing.
Right.
And then when you do the forensics, you're like, this person did this with a passion and anger. Because you can tell by the blows, it was repetitive and over and way overkill. Right?
I remember you talking years ago about Dog Brothers' high-level results of cavemanning.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
Just how it devolved, yet evolved, and the reality of it becomes that.
By studying that type of history and their methods, you get to see the angles of attack.
Right.
It's by studying a forensics attack on someone, a murder, and you're seeing repetitive blows, it had to start somewhere. And by studying the angles, you can learn how to defend that. That stuff's really important.
Yeah.
Because gunshots, projectile, don't matter.
Yeah.
It came from a distance.
Yeah.
But when you talk about bludgeonings and stabbings, it's important to understand how they happen. And many of them happen with defensive, the knife got grabbed.
Right.
Hands are sliced.
Cut hands.
Because they grabbed the knife instead of the wrist.
Right.
Right?
Blocking,
Sometimes, and that can work. If you're already there and the knife's through your hand, don't let them have it back.
That's right. Take
Grab
that
the
as a
wrist.
disarm right there.
Not a lot of people have that pain
Right.
tolerance to push through that. They kind of go into shock.
Right. You don't even know where to go from there.
That's right. Yeah, and without training, you're never going to do it. So that's basically what we're kind of reviewing, right? Was our 1 and our 2 and our 3 and our 4 and our 5
Right.
are big ones.
Okay.
And they might even do the groin type, up the body type slice.
Right.
But
Or that back
ultimately,
hand, yeah.
if I go to do that, and you're going to deal with that, if you start with the footwork, you deal with like a 4.
Right.
Right, I come up, you pass it, and you know, exactly, I'm going to turn, you're into that same thing.
Yeah.
There's no real reason to modify that anymore. And I've seen all kinds of extra techniques for that kind of stuff, and some of it's just out there and funky, and not sure it's necessary.
Right.
Bring it down to the simplest things you can do, the fastest, like we're doing, really rapid, and you can replicate it in a motion.
1.
Things like hoop, and if you don't have hoop-bud, even if you've got kickboxing, you can learn to put a wedge in and a parry. Western boxing mixed with kickboxing can almost give you some upper level knife defense because you use those structures, right? So they're there. Okay, so last thing we're going to do is we'll go back 3 and 4, and I'm going to get you to go to the outside of my arm.
Okay.
Right? And then first we're going to get 2-on-1. We're going to go to wrestling.
Gotcha.
Knife tapping to our wrestling.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm
primary.
here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Work your X formation.
Okay, and now I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
Here.
You can use that one.
Okay.
Right, and then and get your
wrist
that's one of your primary ones.
Okay.
Get your wrist in an overhand grip.
Okay. Oh, right here.
Yep.
Okay.
And then underneath, and go into your standard wrestling setup. That's right. So that I'm total control.
Right.
Now you can use environments. One of the way to use it if you stay high with this is you can use your knee to disarm that.
Okay.
Bringing your knee up and actually by turning my hand down, you're gonna knee that blade out.
Right.
Yeah, there or even outward.
Okay.
Right, even just here forward. You can bang on that because even if you slice here a little bit, it's not that big of a deal.
Okay.
Right. So you're here. You get to the outside. You get a control. 2-on-1. You're here. I can bring this in.
Yeah.
Right. Or even bring it in here against the bone.
Right.
Right. I'm controlling this. Push that hand through. There's different ways you can use your leg. You see Dan uses it all kinds of crazy ways, really fast.
Yeah.
Stick, especially with sticks, he uses leg a lot. Because the stick's long and at leverage points and you can't hold it.
Right.
Right? But once you're in that type of a position here, right, where I get into a control, now I want to start working it. Because this is probably our most dominant control we can have from here.
Right.
With a 2-on-1, even over the Dumog bicep, because that one requires me to move your body.
Right. And it doesn't have control over the lower limb, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it has control over the body.
It does, but I don't have control over the wrist.
Right.
So you can still kind of be flailing me and panicking, and I got to really watch for that. Whereas the 2-on-1 is a really dominant setup.
Right.
And I don't think people work it enough at all in any of the weapons rounds because they don't typically have great wrestling background.
Oh, no. So how is your entry?
Your push. So let's go. Let's just flow back in.
Okay.
Right? Just pick it up. That's the beauty of knife tapping. That's what you want to do. As you screw it up, you just flow it back in and look for that motion where you can pin.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can go there. Just watch that ability to have strength.
Okay.
Right? What's your strongest? There it is. There's your strongest grip. Otherwise, I'm going to try cutting you.
Right.
Right? Until the point where you could actually disarm me on the concrete. You keep putting me down, you go this way and roll my arm.
Yeah.
I'm going to lose that. Right? So you got that in a nice structured control. You can bring it down, use your knee, turn it that way and just bump out the blade. Yeah, that way, even that one, yeah, right there. Just bring your, now it's a workbench. You go off of it, right? 2-on-1, let's go to the Dumog control.
Okay.
Off the same thing. Right, boom. That was good, that was wide. There was a gap there where you didn't have shoulder control.
Oh, okay.
And I might come back at you. It's still effective. It's good. Just want to be aware of it. It's when you chose to go to the arm.
Right.
So use that same pin.
Okay.
Use that same pin there. Now this hand engages bicep first, and the left hand is secondary.
Okay. So.
You never. Yeah, there it is. See how you do that pull right there?
Right.
Got my bicep. Now that just slips in behind, grabs the other thing, and now you got a real good control. And now you're up and down.
Okay.
Up and down, violent. Send them flying. Yeah. And then third one's going to be the armbar control. So you're going to definitely use that almost Tai Chi.
Okay.
Pound style control.
That lead forearm.
Yep.
There, eh?
Which requires a good wrist control
Right.
and a rollover. And then finalize the disarm.
Okay.
Because you're in that spot now.
Right. Right here.
Yeah, once we get here, now you can use your knee. Yeah. Boom. Yeah, you can just kind of grind that off the side. If you get, when you're here, anytime you've got this, when you roll this over, this blade becomes flat and all this leg has to do is come up like that.
Right.
Past, so if we don't even have the knife, all I'm doing is this. I'm coming up past it because it's just going to clip that.
Right.
What I got to watch for is that the blade's not down, and it's not going to be with your hand like that.
Right.
Because you hold the blade like this. So
Sure.
I come in, this is how you'll see Dan, a lot of advanced Filipino here, just pump it in like that. Just walk it out. Do it nice and slow, because
Okay.
you can control it, and it's just a push off the bone of the kneecap.
Oh, that's what's a forearm.
It's okay, that's perfect. You went from a two and one into that.
Right.
Because all three of them flow from each other.
Okay, so just right here, and you're just
Yep.
passing through.
Just boom,
right
that's
there.
it. There it is, because my thumb's already controlled. You got excellent wrist control and thumb control. I can't actually make a fist proper.
Right.
Because you're squeezing my thumb in with your fingers, and then you get an instant. So with that, if you just feed that for me, right? As soon as I get to here, when I get my 2-on-1,
Yeah.
and I switch to my Dumog, I can always pull back down and go to that one. Remember this flow?
Yes.
Right? And then we can go into this type of stuff, which is more advanced, and I wouldn't advise doing it with a blade.
Right.
It's too risky. I've got those 3 amazing ones. That's just fancy shit.
Yeah.
Right? That's our
that's
wrist lock
right.
flow stuff, which I've seen done from literally from here, right, where they're doing this stuff,
Right.
and then bringing the knife out and everything. The problem is you're passing your body with a blade, and if something goes wrong, it's over. So it's just not worth. The final move works. It's not worth the path to it. Is just too dangerous, in my opinion. I try to stick to the highest percentage stuff. It's like your jiu-jits. We know the stuff that works really good because it works no gi as well as gi,
Right.
and it's dominant a lot of the time, and it's really great in control. The other stuff that does work requires years of really infinite practice, and you hit it once in a while. So there's your meat and your potatoes, and then there's the stuff that you might blow this guy's mind with this crazy move. And when it works great, but the path to it, you're not going to get that on someone like Khabib,
Right.
or GSP,
Yeah.
or yourself that's been training for 20, 30 years. The average dude, yeah, he'll pull that off. Right? You might even get the shoulder lock on a knife with somebody and then pin them down and put your knee on their head and take the blade away. And I've seen that with like law enforcement type moves. I'm like, yeah, but the path to get there is death, dude.
Yeah.
Super dangerous.
Gotcha.
And bulletproof vest on the cover here.
Yep.
Cover this. So
Awesome, brother.
okay, well we'll leave that at that.
Thank you, sir.